when it comes to nerves in fighting, it's a topic that's really spoken about and almost avoided a lot of the times. And I think this is one of the biggest problems, is that people almost expect that on the night they're just going to be able to deal with it. And when you start working with, to be fair, fighters in any regard from any level, so if they're just getting started, if they're halfway through their journey, if they're professional fighters, it's all kind of the same, that a lot of people just leave it up to chance on the day, and you'll see that's the kind of thing that makes a lot of people crumble, is not being able to deal with the nerves, the arena, the pressure, and it has a real impact on their performance, and afterwards it can almost affect their day-to-day life, you know. They almost like get their confidence knocked in every other situation. And the reason that I speak about this is because I see it so often, and it's something that's within people's control, but because it's a weird subject that people don't want to address, because maybe they feel it'll make them weak if they speak about it, or they're not as strong as they're trying to tell themselves they are in their head. Like, it's just a funny thing, but I think it's something that is absolutely in your control. It's definitely not something that's a quick fix, but it is in your control, and there is things that you can do to help it. Well, there was a lot of things that I did to help myself. So I find myself now that one of my greatest assets within fighting is composure and being able to relax and take the moment in for what it is. I think the more composed that you are inside of the ring, and whatever it is that you're doing inside of life that's like kind of high pressure situations, that's going to allow you to give off your best performance. You know, you're able to think about what you're doing with clarity, you're able to act properly, you're able to like get into a flow state almost with things, you know. But that only comes from composure. You see, when people are uncomposed, when people are a little bit overwhelmed, you see that's when people start acting and moving frantically, okay? And again, this is in all walks of life, you know. So my very first fight, I was like 14, I was fighting on a local show back in England, and I remember walking out as a young kid. I was fighting somebody that was 21 at the time. The weight was kind of, I weighed in maybe, I don't know at the time, 55 kilos, but the fight was at 60. I remember in my head, I'd watched his videos of this guy who was like, I could say 20 years old, he'd knock people out, basically like a grown man to me, as like a 14-year-old, you know, 14, 15. I remember walking out to that fight and thinking, man, I just don't want to be here, you know. And as I'm walking, I'm thinking, I can just run off. I'll just run off to the train station and never go back to the gym, and things will be sweet, you know. But the reality of it was, obviously, I don't actually want to do that. I'm just listening to the fear, and it's kind of overwhelming me at the time. Regardless, anyway, we go in and fight, and don't remember anything that happened in the fight, because like I say, if you're uncomposed, then things just become irrational, and you just kind of act without even thinking. There's no thought process to the thing, you're just reacting. But I came out of that, luckily we won, and I kind of thought, if I want to do this for the rest of my life, or even do it at a good level, I have to get this under wraps, you know. And I've kind of studied sports psychology and performance and things like that, basically since I was a kid. Watched high performers, see what they speak about, see what it is that they do, and realize that if there's all these people that are good in this area and some people are bad, there has to be something in the middle that these are doing that these aren't. And I think a lot of it is addressing it. Once you address it, you can then understand it. Once you understand it, then you can start to build on it and get better at it. If you just kind of ignore it, it's always going to be a demon in the back of your mind, you know. One thing that helped me massively was, again, a lot of people almost want to fight it. So they want to pretend that it's not there. Again, this is all walks of life, whether it's interviews, presentations, you know, athletic events, whatever. As soon as something big is coming up that's making them feel a certain type of way, they just want to shut it down. They want to, it overwhelms them a little bit, the feeling of, you know, the stomach goes, your heartbeat starts to race, you start to sweat, you start to overthink, and you're just like, fuck, I don't want this, I just want to get rid of it. And they just kind of ignore it and just hope on the day it doesn't present itself. But to me, that's like going swimming and hoping that you don't get wet. Like, it just kind of doesn't work. It's going to be there regardless. We either accept it, or you just get like overwhelmed on the day because it's another thing that you're thinking about instead of the actual thing. And it's so anyway, the thing for me is to acknowledge it. So I started to acknowledge that they're always going to be there. These nerves are never going to go away. Nobody at any level of anything doesn't feel nerves. If they say they do, they're probably lying. I've never met anybody, and I've been around all walks of life, competed at every level myself, also been around professionals at every level that you can kind of think of, and everybody feels the same. It's just how you deal with that. Don't expect them to go anywhere. Try to understand them and try to work with them as opposed to fighting them. Because you fight them, they're only going to build, and then they've got power. And as soon as they've got power, it's a whole different ballgame, because now you're fighting against this huge thing of like, I don't want this, and instead of just focusing on the thing you're trying to do. So as I accept that the nerves are going to be there, now as they come, they don't bother me. So it's a part of the process. It's a part of the process. If I go swimming, I get wet. I'm no longer shocked. I'm no longer surprised. I'm no longer annoyed that I am there. The same way that when the nerves come, the heart starts to race, stomach starts to go, you start to get a little bit sweaty hands. It's just cool. This is part of the process. This is my body just warming up into what it is that I'm going to do. And again, interviews, presentations, sporting events, all the same stuff. So the main thing that helped me initially is accepting those nerves. Accepting that they're going to come, and then I become at peace with them, and then I can use them for my own benefit. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff happening when you're getting nervous. Your body is kicking into this fight or flight mode, and this state is putting you in a position to be able to fight or run away. So you're faster, you're stronger, you're sharper. Now again, if you let these nerves overcome you, it's like a huge shadow, and you almost like shy away from it. But if you understand them, you embrace them, and you realize the power that it can give you, it's almost like you're walking through them, and it makes you bigger, So there's a way to turn them and be able to use them for good as opposed to letting it swallow you. So the thing to take away from that is nerves are good. Nerves can help you. So the thing to take away from that is nerves are good. They also mean that you're doing something that's worthwhile, You don't get nervous doing your day-to-day activities like inside your comfort zone, just going through the same monotonous tasks. It means that it's like a sign that you're pushing yourself to a new boundary, within reason anyway. So they're a good thing, and we want to learn to understand them, and we want to learn to use them to our power. Another real practical thing you can do, for me, I believe over excessive amount of nerves come from under preparation. So the more that we can put ourselves in our best position, the most prepared position, the less that you're going to feel nervous, because you can settle your mind by knowing that you've done every single thing possible. Now again, talking about doing a presentation, if you know every single thing in depth that you need to say, and any question that comes at you, you absolutely know the answer, the ability of you being able to control that situation is going to be so much greater, which means the nerves don't need to exist as much as they do, So you can be nervous that you're about to present it, but you're not going to be nervous about the outcome and the actual presentation itself, because you understand it in so much depth, because you're super prepared, Now I think it's the same in combat sports and whatever sport and endeavour. If you've done every single thing that you know within your ability, then you're going to be a lot more confident naturally, because you've done everything that's possible. There is no more that you can do. Now it's just up to the thing to play out. And you can go a step further, where a lot of high-level gyms, a lot of high-level sport rooms will replicate the event over and over and over again, to the point where it just becomes part of the routine. So fighting gyms, for example, will have fight simulations. Now, there's some top coaches that I've worked with and spoken to that kind of do this. And it's interesting that each one of them don't care how you perform in the spar, okay? So they don't care about the fight simulation, how you actually perform. What they care about is that the night before, maybe you was a little bit nervous. On the day, you probably woke up a little bit earlier than normal, you're like a little bit, the stomach's going, like I say, the hands are going. They care that you're feeling that. They care that you come into the gym and you're getting the same feeling as if you walked to an arena. They care that you're walking through the cage or the ring, and there's nobody else in the gym apart from your coach, their coach, the same way a fight's going to be. you get the same eerie sense that you do when you're about to compete. Take care that the nerves that you have felt throughout that whole process has happened, and they replicate it over and over again to the point as you walk out to the real competition, you've been there. So it's not a first time thing, it's not a first time endeavor, you know, like you've been here, we know how it goes, we know how to do what we're about to do. Like I say, this is top coaches that I've worked with, incredible athletes, boxing world champions, UFC world champions, multiple, you know, and they go through the same process. And this is the top level people that have walked out in front of 80,000 seat arenas, people that have been the biggest stars in the world, go through these simulations for the same thing, that they replicate the event over and over again to the point that it's just normal. I think that builds into the fact that the more that you can prepare for the event, the less the nerves have any power, because you can always have something physical that you revert back to quiet it down. Yeah, there's 2 points there we can kind of work on. Embracing that they're going to exist and dealing with them, and making sure that we're using them to our power as opposed to them having power over us. And then the other thing is preparation in every regard. Preparation in your skill set, preparation in replicating the event and doing reps and reps and reps. And the more repetition that you can get, the more prepared you're going to be. The more prepared you're going to be, the less the nerves have any power, and you're going to be in your best position that you can to be able to perform in whatever that you're doing. I have a community where I help people learn how to fight, I help fighters get better. This is one of the things that I can help with people. They're struggling with nerves in whatever it is. They're struggling with getting ready for a first competition, getting ready for an interclub or an actual fight, or just day-to-day life. They're struggling with things, you know. These are all kind of steps that we can work on, and there's loads of other things we can add in. If that sounds like something of interest, there's a link in the description that will take you over to the community, and you'll be able to join us from there. But appreciate you listening, and hope you enjoyed the video.